Carla McNeil, the creator, writer, artist of Finder, a long-running independent comic that's just been collected by Dark Horse Comics. Thanks for taking the time for the interview.
Sure, no problem.
So you've kind of run the gamut. You've done everything from self-publishing to web comics to now getting it published. What's that journey been like for you?
Well, whenever you're in business, you have to look at what might benefit you and where you might go and weigh the advantages and disadvantages of any given thing. When I first started, the internet simply wasn't an option, and it was doing pamphlet comics with your local copy shop, and that's still a perfectly valid way of making comics. When the zombie horde descends, we can still get somebody to pedal the bamboo bicycle to make a copy machine work, and still make comics. It's all good. But I have shifted and changed my way of doing things as I went, just based on what seemed like something worth trying.
This video is brought to you by tfaw.com. Visit tfaw.com today and use the code WONDER at checkout to save $5 on your next purchase of $20 or more. tfaw.com. With Finder being collected, what was it by Dark Horse Comics? What was it like? Did you have to work with an editor? How much input did you have?
A fair amount. The one thing, when you're a self-publisher, you have to be good at everything. And the one thing I was never terribly good at, try as I might, was marketing. And so when the opportunity to let somebody else do it really cropped up, and I had enough work under my belt and enough attention already to be somebody, that a company might be happy to stomp the sidewalk for, it's been great. It does mean that my natural tendency to say, no, I don't have time for this, I have to do the work, I have to step on because now someone expects me to do it. This is why I wasn't good at it, because I didn't have the passion for it that some of my colleagues do, and I really wanted to do the work. But many people will hear that and say, yeah, that's what I want to do, I just want to do the work. Well, that's fine, but you still have to have an eye for it and understanding for it, and you still have to take the time to actually do it. Even when somebody else is putting it into action for you, you still have to supply the art, you still have to supply the good quotes, you still have to get out to the trade shows and be interesting. So, you can't just do this and ignore everything. You can't, no matter how strong the impulse is. There is no way for you to just do the work and let somebody else do everything else.
After 15, 16 years, Finder is just a sprawling epic now. What was the genesis of the store? What was your original kind of intention?
I don't know that I had one at the very beginning. Back when I started, the very definitely the shape of comics for a person doing black and whites was to create a kind of a home, that whatever you might do on the sides, that this comic is where people knew where to find you. Because back then there wasn't that much in email, people didn't have phones that texted. If you wanted to keep in touch with a creator and what they were doing, you had to keep track of their little personal job, where they would have a phone number or an email, or not an email address, but a snail mail address, or what have you, and you knew what they were doing, and they'd post little notes in the back of the book about what side projects they were involved in. But that meant that the book itself had to be something that was very dear to your heart, and it had to be able to tell whatever kind of story you really wanted to tell. Now, in some cases, that meant a very narrow focus, like David Mack with Kabuki, or Mike Allred with Madman, Great stuff, but very simple, very pared down and specific. What I set out to create was something big enough that I could tell any kind of story that I wanted with any kind of protagonist that I liked, and I was trying to cast my net really wide and create a world as a consistent character that I could populate with anything I liked. So that's what happened with me, and to a certain extent I think with other books like Sandman and Cerebus and everything. They created an environment that they could tell any kind of story in if they cared to. Whether it worked out that way, that was the intent.
The Finder's got all the fun, kind of the sci-fi tech elements, but what I really enjoy about it is kind of musings on gender roles and minorities and things like that. How did that come about? Is that just...
All my life, I was the kid with the National Geographic and the World Book Encyclopedias. And what I absorbed in the unthinking stage of childhood is that if there was only one way for people to be, then we would only be one way. As it is, the interesting thing about life is that everything is normal and ordinary and even boring to somebody. You know, sitting down to a bowl of Lucky Charms or muesli or whatever and texting your friend who lives in, you know, Venice Beach or Australia or actual Venice is normal to some people. You know, living in a longhouse and, you know, selling pop tops off of soda cans is normal to somebody. Ordinary, banal even. And I think that is friggin' beautiful. I love that about people. That things that seem so terribly outlandish just 2 doors down are normal. And so that is the basic philosophy that if the book has one, that's what it espouses.
Well, your earlier chapters focused on Jaeger, who's Askin, and kind of, you know, roaming around. He's got a bag and, you know, houses all across, you know, the country. But in Finder, he's kind of more of a ghost. He's almost like he's haunting Rachel as she's thinking about him and trying to find him. And in Torch, he makes a short appearance, but it could almost be like a fever dream or something that she's having. Is Jaeger going to be a main character in any of your future stories?
Actually, yes.
I've seen this sketch online on your site.
This is the first 16 pages of a story called Third World, which will appear in 8-page increments in Dark Horse Presents in, I might add, full color. The lovely lady Jen Manley Lee, who did the artwork, the color for my banner, will be doing the color for the issues, along with oh, I'm such a horrible person. It's the Bill Mudron. Bill, forgive me. You'll have to hit me with something. I'm so tired. But Jen and Bill are splitting the tasks of coloring my work for Dark Horse. And they're both fantastic and amazing artists in their own right. So you get, you know, your first Finder story in full color, and you get the first one that really focuses on him. When I first set out, he was not the main character. He just happened to be the only character that connected people together. So he was originally kind of a framing device, but people seem to like him, so he has taken a more prominent step. Not that he would necessarily be comfortable doing that.
Another main character who's come to the forefront is Rachel, who I guess can be best described as kind of a privileged, well-meaning white girl. And in Finder,
stick-figure glamour queen, yes.
Yes, a member of an elite clan, and she is trying to use her power for good. You know, she's taking
basically,
yeah, trying to take the Askians in, trying to you know, further her own causes. But it looks like she's in Torch. She's in danger of being sucked under by what she's trying to do.
Aren't we always? You know, it's very difficult to create a business or a structure, a social structure that can really benefit other people, whether it's creating a company that can employ other people or a studio that can give other, you know, artists or writers or musicians an opportunity. It's difficult to start something like that right from the beginning, but that is essentially the position that she's in, because she's an oddball, even though she has managed to get her fingernails into the world that she was born into. She's not a born manipulator. She's not a born politician. She's one of us, really, who's trying to figure out how to make things work for her properly, and how to do something worthwhile with the influence that she has, because in a way that is expected of her. In the social structure in this book, the people who are members of the upper class are expected to be patrons, are expected to be lords and ladies bountiful, which, you know, may be looked down on in our society the way it is, but wasn't always. There was a time when it was the only way to start a business and make something new happen. You couldn't just go get a bank loan most of the time. And that's what I thought was an interesting reflection on our times, to look back at the way things used to be, when everybody really did have to make nice to grandma on the off chance that they might come into some more money when grandma kicks off.
Exactly.
Kind of ugly, but that's the way it was.
Well, in Torch, she's dealing with kind of almost a Jane Austen like conundrum, whether to marry for money or for love.
Right.
Which way do you think she's going to fall? It seems, from what I found on the site, it seems like it's almost like a cliffhanger.
It's spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Yes.
Oh, so for money and love, perhaps?
Well, when you marry for love, you don't always get what you think you're going to get. When you marry for money, you don't always think what they're happily ever afters do happen, but they're a bit more complicated than that in real life. And I'm never going to let any character off that easy. She will have her happiness in one way or another, and she will get what she wants, even if it isn't what she thinks she's going to get. And things will not be simple. But some things will work out and some things won't, and that's about as specific as I could get at this point.
Do you have any plans for Marcy?
Marcy, yeah. She is a fan favorite because it's not hard to sell a story about a bookworm to a bunch of book people. And she seems a natural foil for Magri, the main character of Dream Sequence, because his whole purpose in life is to maintain a meticulously imagined fantasy world in his head, and she loves fantasy. And it's quite natural for her to be one of the multitude that visit his fantasy world without having to wait for him to write a book or make a movie or paint a picture. But she's clever enough to want to skip ahead in a story, as it were. And when you're inside someone else's psyche, that isn't always the smartest thing to do. There were a lot of people that got the wrong end of the stick in Dream Sequence for doing that before Magri got his psyche put together, basically. And she may have a little trouble with that when she makes her trip. When I get around to doing that story, it will be called Maiden Voyage, and I'll be doing my best to make some twists on the coming of age story, because she will, after all, be an adult already. But there are so many more doors to figure out where they are and climb through, even when you are physically an adult. And Marcy's a little bit of a case of arrested development too, like Rachel.
I can't see her going through the whole beauty pageant clan.
No,
selection.
she won't. She has no chance of being accepted by her mother's clan. Probably not her father's either. She's too different. But one of Rachel's whole points of going through this ridiculous thing and becoming a part of a power structure filled with people that she doesn't really like is the fact that she can offer opportunity, at least to her sisters, if not to other people. She'll be able to, nobody hands your power brokership to you with the keys to the car. You have to figure out how to make it work, how to obtain it for yourself, and what to do with it once you have it. That's Rachel's quandary. But Marcy's is more not being a terribly ambitious girl. What life is going to be thrust onto her, and where she will go from there. Her biography moment is coming.
Well, Finder's gone through all the different vehicles of distribution. Are you going to go digital, or have you gone digital?
I'm very interested in digital. I mean, I've been on the web. The web was a very good move for me. The web put me out where people could see me without having to buy an ash can for me at a comic shop. God bless the shops. I will do anything for the shops to help them. But having my stuff online got me under the eyes of many people who simply don't have access to a good shop, and only the good shops carried me. Not everybody. But I'm interested in digital for that reason, because I know that I'm addicted to digital files on my, miraculous magic pickle, so I cannot see saying, oh, but that's not good for my stuff. If I have reason to read books as digital files, then people will want to read comics as digital files. It's all part of this ongoing evolution. Make no mistake, that's where the water wants to flow.
Well, thanks so much for your time.
Well, thank you very much.
Brought to you by Tfal.com, the world's best online retailer of comics and collectibles. Whatever you're into, we've got just the thing for your collection.